Okay, great to be here, and very appreciate very much that Fujitsu is taking seriously the sustainability challenge and pushing forward with the main effort that we have in this generation, how to combine environmental responsibility into market economy, and that's been also like mine main sphere of interest for past 25 years, I would say almost 30 years since I was in high school. To go right to focus, I would start by basically saying that what's my main KPI or main challenge that we are trying to achieve when working as minister responsible of both energy and climate and also environment overall. Here you can see what's the situation with Finnish aspiration to become carbon neutral as one of the first Western countries worldwide. We have a very ambitious target in our climate law nationally, which is more ambitious than in Sweden, or more ambitious than in most countries in Europe, actually in any country in Europe as well. Well, currently what we are achieving is quite decent pace of diminishing gross emissions. We are now about 1/3 less emitting emissions than 20 years ago, and the prognosis say that we are well on track to achieve the -60% target by 2030, which is set to us also in EU legislation. Then the more challenging part is what happens with our land use forestry sector. 10 years ago it was a significant sink, as you can see here. Since then development has been more or less challenging, and there's many reasons for this. Drying early summers have been affecting to growth, especially in northern forests. There is updated calculation methods, and it would be, of course, nice to say that these calculation methods are this guilty here, but I must admit that the fresh ones are better. They are more realistic, but unfortunately they give also more challenging results. And obviously also annual harvesting level affects to net sink of our forests, which also is depicted here, that during past 5 years we've been having a high season in forest industry, and this has also led to the situation. Well, what means carbon neutrality by 2035, which everybody is talking about? Well, it means that these gross emissions must be equal to net sink, which is here. And what we see when we look 12 years ahead, well, the original plan, which was set by the previous government, was that the gross emissions would be 21 million tons, and net sink would as well be 21 million tons on minus side. They would be equal, fine and beautiful. But this will probably not be the case in the end. So the forest sink won't be 21 million. I think it will be less, even if we must and we will do measures how to increase forest growth. But fortunately, we have quite good possibilities also to accelerate diminishing gross emissions development during next 12 years. Also, the Finnish National Climate Panel nowadays estimates that we could be closer to 16, 17 than 21 million tons in 2035, which is already much closer to our target. And then there is, of course, a gap if our sink is somewhere like 0 or 5 or even 10, and gross emissions 15, 17, 16. But there's huge importance of getting a leap forward in carbon capture and reusage of carbon in our economical system, and that's actually also something that maybe some of you can work with certain business cases where technology can help, especially in Finnish case, forest industry companies and power and heat companies using bioenergy to go faster to a situation where they actually capture CO2 from large-scale emission sources and reuse it into durable products such as synthetic cement, or in certain cases also synthetic fuels, or then we can also store it especially in oil and gas fields in Denmark and Norway. And with this attribute, we are able to reach the carbon neutrality if we manage to get some 1/3 of that biogenic CO2 captured by 2035. Then we could be close to the situation that emissions are 10 million tons and sinks are 10 million tons, let's say, roughly. And this is not any policy instrument that I would say that it must be 10 and 10, but this is just to give you some measures on how we see the current challenge. Well, what we are doing as government, first about the larger picture, I would say that the main like policy driver for us is to accelerate speed of industrial change from fossil-based into electricity-based and hydrogen-based, and hydrogen is basically one form of electricity-based economy because it's basically stored electricity that clean hydrogen means. And one very important step forward here is to have a clear and like a reliable path towards doubling electricity production in Finland within the next 15 years, which means much faster investment to electricity than we've seen during past 40 years. But this is at the same time the main advantage that we have in Finland if you compare to Central Europe, that we have much more space and potential for both onshore and offshore wind. We have actually doubled already wind production during past about 18 months, and there is investment pipeline which will bring large addition to wind power capacity during next 2 years as well. We have also continuously positive attitude towards nuclear power. We just got the Europe's largest single nuclear unit, Olkiluoto 3, in our grid now this spring, and currently we already have electricity system which is more than 90% fossil free, which is quite different picture than you would have in most European countries these days still. We don't have to replace so much anymore when we are talking about electricity market, but we have to increase. And this is definitely one of our like key messages also for those investors who think whether to invest to hydrogen-based chemical industry or steel industry or some other fields here in Finland or in some other countries, that here we have actually a reliable path towards getting enough electricity with decent price for this huge electricity-based revolution. So this is then putting us closer to the growth in clean industry, and then the third angle on this triangle is the carbon neutrality. How we go forward? Well, this picture probably tries to illustrate just the importance of strong technical research and development, and this government that we have formed last June, we are trying to save costs everywhere. We are trying to balance a bit the budget deficit, structural budget deficit, that this is way too, in a way too risky level in Finland. We are cutting 4 billion euros per annual budget level from current level to the level of 2027. But at the same time, there's one important dimension of government actions where we are actually investing much more than previous governments during past 15 years have done, and it's R&D investment from public sources. In 2027, Finland will put above 1 billion euro more to R&D support than during this year. And already next year, we are about 300 million euros more investing to R&D, including, for instance, new quantum technology center in Otaniemi and quantum computer commitment to invest to that. So this is about 100 million project alone and this kind of stuff. So hopefully you will also be able to not just use, but actually take the advantage of innovate then something for our common use during using these new resources that we are investing. The basic idea, of course, in Finnish R&D is always that private companies put 2 euros per each, 1 euro from public sources. So then we try to get accelerate a very large cumulative effect. What you are doing, I think, is also quite much tied to the idea of smart cities and smart buildings. And when it comes to actually energy system as well, I think that one of the main aspects that should be better understood in also European Union's 2040 package, when we are now drafting Europe's 2040 package in Europe, like for climate 2040 package, is that actually it's not so important whether you use 20,000 or 15,000 kilowatt hours per annum in your house, but much more important than how much you use capacity during that usually January week when it's -25 dark and there might be no wind. So basically the demand response to fluctuating supply situation is much more important when it comes to emissions as well, because then when we are scarce of electricity in Nordics, then we use all the fossil plants as well, and we have to build the capacity to cope with the peak demand hours. To cut the peak demand hours is a very important imperative here, and that's of course very much tied to the smartness of our buildings. And our government program also takes the approach that we are pushing the regional transmission companies to install such level of readiness to all electricity heated buildings that there should always be a possibility for remote on-off for the electricity heating boiler, and not only for the whole building, because actually a year ago, when we were quite close in certain weeks to the situation that we would have been forced to push ordered cut-off of electricity for regions, and then one region now and second region next and third region third, to be able to border the needed or limit the needed capacity per each moment. But that would be quite problematic, because you might have you at least you would have your freezers frozen, getting melted. You might have even some medical equipment working there and would be cut off. And this is a bit stupid and strange, I would say, that we were almost forced to use exactly the same things that we would have been using already in 1970s. And we are now 50 years more close. We have so many things. We have mobile communication and so forth, and still the electricity system or our building systems actually are not that smart as we are talking usually when we market them. So here's also a key message for you, that please find a beneficial business cases with large housing owners, with of course also district heating companies, district transmission line companies, energy companies, and this is something that we very much want to accelerate, that there will be an easy and comfortable way for house owners and people who are living in houses to allow operators to automatically react with the heating system to the changes in the electricity system. This is also quite stupid in the sense that if you have a 2-hour cutoff in your heating, you usually don't even notice it. So there's no really opposing factors for this. At the same time, overall, I want to also stress that it's not only the large macro figures that show that the emissions are coming down, and the electricity system is not the only part of our society which is in very different format than it was 30 years ago when I started to get interested about these things. But also the heating system is very much changing, and actually the district heating system, its average emissions are maybe the largest driver of emission reductions in Finland during this decade. You could a bit exaggerate that last decade it was a decade of diminishing electricity system emissions, and this decade is a decade when district heating gets rid of fossils and quite much rid of burning also. This is an example from Espoo district heating system, about 300,000 people inhabitant city, and as you can see, the share of carbon neutral production is growing very fast during this decade, especially actually also quite concretely linked to data intensive part of the economy, because the main driver of this fast jump in carbon neutral part of the heat will be that switching new Microsoft data warehouses into the Espoo district heating system, and it's quite amazing actually that 40% of district heating could be sourced from Espoo Kirkkonummi data warehouses within next 10 years. Finally, there's some societal benefit from those youngsters who just are in internet all the way and creating this heat and paying for our heating bills in the end. So to maybe sum up these certain points is we try to push forward such an environment where pioneers would be winning, so to enable your thinking and accelerate your innovation capacity, especially in those like key areas of change, which I try to a bit depict at what we are mainly thinking about. We need to be able to produce vast amounts of electricity without burning anything. We are required to produce much more heat without burning anything, and we must be much smarter in matching demand and supply each minute or each hour, and this is something where we need data intensive businesses to help us forward. And I would also say that okay, it's important that we all live according to certain standards of what is right, and that's why I think it's important that Finland gets into carbon neutrality. But the inconvenient truth is that even if we get rid of fossils in Finland, the climate won't change as such, because we are only 1 or 0.1% of global emissions. So the real handprint actually then comes only in that point when we actually manage to export some concepts which we first might be developing here, and then exporting them to larger inhabited areas. And that's fully possible, and we've been doing it also. If you can look for different examples, especially in industrial solutions, where Finnish engineering has been pioneering and then practically selling concepts worldwide. So hopefully we would be going through this plan in Finland together with you also. In Ministry of Environment, when it comes to more concrete steps, we are currently also drafting the implementing acts for the new construction legislation, also including climate plans and the mandatory calculation of construction and building footprint for the whole value chain and for basically the whole lifespan of the building, and there will be also standards on how to push on diminishing development this long emissions of the building sector. So there's probably also quite much that you can be involved when it needs smart data processes and so forth, because something that we definitely don't need is too much human-based bureaucracy and red tape for construction companies or house owners. So thanks for the opportunity to maybe a bit tell you and wake you up what we are trying to do in the government, and we of course are interested in helping you also to find a interesting spot in this ecosystem. Thanks.